be doing our last board game demo of the summer today, and it is very fitting that it is themed to go along with our Tails and Tales theme of the week, rainforest animals, because this game is Carcassonne Amazonas, which is set in the Amazon rainforest. So this is a tile laying game set in the Amazon jungle for 2 to 5 players, and it is recommended for ages 7 and up. Here's the description of the game. Under the tropical heat of the jungle, you head into the South American rainforest. The river and jungle both abound with colorful wildlife that creates a most beautiful panorama. But you have little time to appreciate the serenity of the moment as you notice other explorers heading into the jungle to build camps and go down the river. The race to the mouth of the Amazon River is on. All right, so we're going to start by showing you how to set up this game and telling you about the components of the game. So we have land tiles here. There are 80 of these. 65 of them are standard, and 15 of them are special Amazon tiles. They have a special function during the game, and you can tell which ones they are because they have piranhas and caimans on them. They all have the same back, all 80 of these, with a little river. All right, the board, this is the board, this is the start tile. So you're going to place it on the side that matches the number of players. So if you have 2 or 3 players, you're going to start with this side. If you have 4 or 5 players, you'll start with this side. So since I'm setting this up for a 2-player game, I'm going to put it on the 2-player side, and you want to place it. You will need a large table for this game. It is a tile laying game, and it gets really big. So you need a table that is at least 4 feet long. I'm not even sure if this table would actually work for the real game. But you want to place it near the edge, but with a little room, because you might end up building on top of it just a little bit. And then you're going to build down river. So you want a lot of room under the river and a little bit at the top in case you build a little bit above the source of the Amazon River. All right, then you're going to choose your color. There can be up to 5 players. And your color, you get 5 meeples, you get 2 camps, and you get 1 boat. So you're going to place your boat at the start, at the top here. All right, you're going to shuffle the land tiles. And then there's some things you'll set aside until later. There are 4 double tiles you'll set aside, and then the river mouth tile that you'll set aside, and those won't be used until later. All right, you're only going to keep 4 of your meeples here. You'll keep both your camps. You're going to take that 5th meeple and you're going to put it on the scoreboard at 0, and that's going to be used to keep your score. All right, so the goal of the game. One after another, players will place tiles. This is how, one tile at a time, you will discover features, which are villages and tributaries, the Amazon jungle, and the Amazon River itself. You will place meeples in villages and tributaries and your camps in the jungle. At the same time, you want to move your boat down the Amazon River to get ahead of the other players. You will score points during and at the end of the game. After the final scoring, the player with the most points is declared the winner. All right, so you're going to play in clockwise order, and I think it said to decide who goes first, either the last player who went on a boat ride or the youngest, whichever one you want to pick. So you do the following actions in order, and you just keep going around and doing those actions. So the first action is drawing 1 tile and placing it to continue the landscape. So I'm going to draw this tile. All right, it has a tributary, a river on it, so I have to place it, to touch another tributary. I can't just randomly place stuff. They have to make sense. I'm going to move this back a little so maybe you can see it more. So I place that. Okay, on this tile, you may place, depending on what kind of tile it is, a meeple or a camp. Or you cannot place and you move your boat forward 1 space. And then, if possible, you score your feature. That is the simple overview. Now let's get into the tile placement restrictions. It must continue the landscape, so if it's a tributary or land, it has to match up. You can't just put a river that starts from the jungle. It has to connect to another river. All right, you can't place them ahead of the Amazon mouth. So this river you are connecting, there can't be any tiles below it. It has to be beside it or above it. Let's see. And then you can build out from here and above, but just not below. All right. So we place the tile in a way that continues the existing landscape. This is a tributary, so I can place a meeple on that tributary if it is unoccupied. So if when we get further into the game, if another meeple was already somewhere else on the tributary, I could not do that. If it has a boat icon on it, you also get to advance your boat, so that is kind of a bonus there. And that happens immediately. It can't move back. Your boat can only advance. It can't go backwards. And it can't move beyond. So if you're all the way to the end and you have a boat icon on your tributary, you can't go further. You just have to stay. You can only go onto the river that has already been built. All right. So you're going to continue building a tributary. I'm just going to keep placing it here to show you how you would do that. All right, we'll get into that later. All right, so when both ends of a tributary is closed, I'll find a tile to close it. That's when you would score it, and that's the third possible action on your turn. So say I drew this card on my turn, it ends with some land, it closes that tributary, then I would get to score it with my meeple. So how it is scored, each tile in the tributary is 1 point. So 1, 2, 3 tiles. Each fruit icon along it is 1 point. So I have 2 fruits, so that's 5 points so far. All right, so 3 tiles plus 2 fruits is 5 points, so I would move my meeple 5 points, and that's how I score that. All right, now the villages. The villages are a tile with land and little huts on those. So you have to continue the landscape. So if I drew this, I would have to put it here or here. And there will be different types of villages. That's actually closing it off. But if I drew this one, it's still leaving it open. You can continue to build a larger village with those kind of tiles. So you can place a meeple on the village if you like. And I'll place it on this completed one so you can see how we're going to score that. All right, so the village is completed when it's surrounded by jungle or the river and there are no gaps inside. Each tile is worth 2 points, so it's scored the same, and each fruit is worth 1 point. But it's actually worth more than a tributary, because when you score a tributary, each tile is worth 1 point. For the village, they're worth 2 points. So this is actually only worth 2 points for me because I only laid 1 tile and there are no fruit icons on it. But I'll move 2 more points. All right, so the camps. So I've been showing you how to place the meeples. You also have these little things that are camps, and you get 2 of those at the beginning of a game. So the meeples score the tributaries and the villages. The camps are going to score in the jungles. So you only have 2. You want to place them wisely. So they can be placed after you lay a tile on the jungle green section of that tile. There can't be any other camps in that jungle. And jungles are separated by tributaries, the river, and villages. And it stays there till the end of the game. So this is, your jungle is going to grow really big, and then you're going to score it at the end of the game. And then each animal, there are little animals printed on the jungle parts. Each animal in your jungle at the end of the game will be worth 1 point. So the meeples score as the game goes on, as the tributaries are closed and the villages are closed, and the camps are scored at the end of the game by the animals. So the animals and the fruit get you extra points along the way. All right, advancing your boat. So if you don't place a meeple or a camp during your turn, you advance your boat 1 space down the river. You are going to want to do that occasionally because that's part of the game, and you also won't always have enough meeples to do anything. If there is a boat icon on a tributary, which I talked about earlier, you get to move your boat also. All right, placing the Amazon tiles. Unlike regular land tiles, when you draw an Amazon tile, you must use it to continue the Amazon River. All right, let me see. There's not many of them. Let me try to find one real quick to show you guys how to do that. Of course I can't find one. Really? Maybe these aren't shuffled well. Oh, wait. No. Ah, yay! I found one. Okay. You probably can't see this, but it has a little caiman that looks like an alligator, and it has some piranhas. So that's how you know it is an Amazon tile. So when you draw an Amazon tile, you must use it to continue the Amazon River. When you place an Amazon tile, choose between its 2 possible orientations. If you draw one that has an exclamation point in the middle, which I saw, and of course now I can't find it. All right, so it's either going to have the caimans and the piranhas or this like rock exclamation point in the middle. All right, if it has this one, you get to choose one of those 4 special Amazon double tiles. And then this is how we build the river. So then you get to place it, and of course it has to match up. So hopefully you pick one that will match up. Here's one that matches up. Now if I just drew this regular Amazon tile, the one with the caiman and the piranhas, I would just use it to continue the river like that. So any tile you draw that has the thicker river, not like the tributary, you're going to use it to make the actual Amazon longer. It's not a tributary. All right. So if you get an Amazon tile, you can place a meeple or a camp on its banks. And if you got that exclamation point tile and place a double tile, you have to place something on the double tile, not the exclamation point. All right. So after you place one of those special Amazon tiles, you get Amazon scoring instead of regular scoring. So this is one of the reasons you want to remember to move your boat down the river. So whoever's boat is furthest down the river at that point gets as many points as the sum of caimans and piranhas depicted on the just placed Amazon tile. So right now there's 1 caiman and 2 piranhas on this tile I just placed. The blue boat is further down the river, so the blue player would get 3 points. The owner of the second boat furthest down the river gets the number of piranhas. So there are 2 piranhas, so the second place would get 2 points. If there are ties, the tied players score all the points for their rank. All right. And after an Amazon scoring, all players that did not score any points get to advance their boat 1 space. So if you're playing a 3 to 5 player game, the people who didn't score points can move their boats up 1. All right, we're almost to the end of the demo here. So what can happen? There can, through clever tile and meeple placement, there can be multiple emails that are on the same tributary or village. So if I placed my meeple on this tributary and then another person started building one out and they ended up meeting up, then you have 2 meeples on the same tributary. So how do you score that? Only the player who has the most meeples in the scored feature gets the points. If there's a tie, they both get the points. All right, so game end. The game ends when all of the land tiles, all of the 80 of these, have been placed, and then you do the final scoring, after which the player with the most points is the winner. All right, so along the way, as you close the tributaries and you close the villages, you scored those, and you also scored points when you expanded the Amazon River. Now we're going to score our additional points at the end. So each tributary that was unfinished gets 1 point per tile and 1 point per fruit icon, just like during the game. Each unfinished village gets 1 point per tile and 1 point per fruit icon. Each camp, you're going to count the number of animals in its jungle, and you get 1 point. So those were for the 2 camps you placed earlier in the game. Don't forget to place those before the game ends. Very important. There's also a final scoring for the Amazon River. So you're going to put this river mouth tile that you put aside at the beginning of the game. You're going to put that at the open end of the river, and then take the boats closest to the front of the river and place them on the highest number, and so on. So this also has sides if you're playing with 2 or 3 players or 4 or 5 players. So for the 2 or 3 player game, the person in first place gets an additional 6 points, and the person in second place gets an additional 3 points. All right, and there are some special rules for 2 or 3 players. They should kind of put those at the beginning, shouldn't they? But they're at the very end. So we already knew some of these. They use a certain side of the start tile and a certain side of the river mouth. When there are only 2 players, the player in second place only scores the points for second place when their boat is on the space directly behind first place. So as we were saying with the Amazon tile scoring, that second place person would only get the points for the piranhas if they were just 1 space behind their opponent there. If their boat was further away, they wouldn't get points, but they would advance their boat 1 space like we talked about earlier. All right, so a very long explanation of a very fun game. If you would like to check it out, you will still want to go over the rule book and make sure you are playing everything correctly, but this is a really fun one, and I hope you guys will play it. Thanks for watching.